Hi everyone, today we'll discuss the main technical element for developing fast, clear, and accurate tongue technique. We will break down the mechanics of articulation, discuss the importance of the front of a tongue, as well as go through some of the best exercises for developing a fantastic tongue technique. But before we do that, I'd like to give a quick thank you to the sponsor of this video, lalal.ia. Lalal.ia is a next-generation music source separation service for fast, easy, and precise stem extraction. You can remove vocal, instrumental, drums, bass, guitar, synthesizer, wind and string instruments, and piano tracks without quality loss, and the best part about it, it's super easy to use. Simply upload your piece, select the instrumentation, and in a few clicks of a mouse you will be able to extract your backing tracks. I've always been a huge proponent of playing along backing tracks for developing skills such as intonation, rhythm, and the ability to multitask, and it's never been easier than using lalal.ai. Check the description box below for more information and a link to the software. With that in mind, back to the topic. Articulation or horizontal tongue movement serves both technical and musical purposes. There's more nuance to this, but in most playing scenarios we are taught to think of syllables da or ta to articulate. It is because the motion that your tongue does during articulation is very similar to the path your tongue takes as you say those syllables out loud. The consonants D or T is what we call the front of a tongue, whereas the vowel or combination of vowels that come after is what we call the back of the tongue. The way I like to think about it is the front or the consonant being a technical element and the back or the vowel being a musical element of the articulation. The front of a tongue directs air at the start and in between the notes, determining the level of accuracy and clarity, whereas the back of the tongue will shape or taper the air to create the articulation effects such as legato, tenuto, staccato, marcato, just to name a few. We'll mainly focus on the front of a tongue today since the topic of this video is improving and developing the technique. But if you'd like for me to cover the back of a tongue and stylizing the articulation, leave a comment down below and I will make sure to do a video on this topic as well. As we articulate, our tongue retracts towards the back of our mouth. The height or the vertical movement of the back of the mouth is going to be determined by the register. The higher the note, the closer to the roof of your mouth the back of your tongue will go, and vice versa. However, the placement of the tip of your tongue when we start articulation should always stay the same, with the exception of a few different articulation techniques mainly used in jazz music and a couple of other scenarios. An accurate tongue placement at the start combined with a quick retraction is what we call a good front of a note, and it's key for accuracy and clarity. To better understand exactly where the tip of a tongue should be placed at the start of the articulation, think of the word dog. Now say it out loud with emphasis on the letter D, as if you're trying to sustain that letter for a few seconds like this. Dog. Dog. Now say it out loud once more, and this time focus exactly on where the tip of the tongue is located in relation to your teeth on the letter D. Dog. Dog. If necessary, do it a few more times to better feel your tongue placement. By this time now, you should have noticed that the tip of your tongue is placed right behind your teeth at the start of the word. And this is exactly where we will try to keep it at the start of every single note of each of the exercises as we articulate. Before we dig into the exercises, there's one more important thing to address, which is the choice of the consonant. I recommend thinking of the D instead of T for your articulation, because the tongue retracts just a tiny bit quicker on letter D than T. It might not seem like a lot, but it will give you an edge long term, especially in some of the more extreme articulation scenarios. With that in mind, let's look at the exercises you should use to learn and develop a great front of a note technique. First thing we need to do is make sure that the motion for the front of a note is correct. To do that, follow these exact steps. Step 1. Place your tongue behind your teeth exactly at the spot where the letter D is located when you say it out loud. Step 2. Wait until your tongue stops moving in that exact same position. Step 3. Start your articulation exactly from that position, even if that feels a little bit awkward to begin with. Couple of important things to keep in mind. Repeat this process for as long as it takes to get accustomed to the motion. Take time to ensure that the tip of your tongue is in a correct position at the start of each note. Take time to ensure that your tongue is not in motion before starting the articulation. Make sure that your tongue retracts swiftly from the starting position when articulating, as if you are trying to say a quick da, da. Listen for a clear start of each note as an indicator that the technique is being performed correctly. Once this process becomes more comfortable and you start hearing a clear and crisp front of the note with each articulation, start adding more texture to your exercises. It is very important that the texture or the complexity of the exercises does not distract you from your ability to focus all your attention on the correct tongue movement. Otherwise, you will be practicing the exercise rather than the technique, which is something you definitely want to avoid. Be very incremental with your exercise choices. However, aim to gradually put yourself into more complex scenarios to not only learn the correct tongue technique, but to become great and functional at that technique. After familiarizing yourself with correct motion, or in other words, correct technique, the next step is learning how to time the placement of the front of the note a bit better. We will once again use a simple pattern made of low concert B-flats or treble Cs. Use metronome starting at 70 beats per minute per quarter note. Make sure that the placement of the tip of the tongue at the start of each note is consistent throughout the pattern. Make sure that the tongue retracts swiftly from the starting position as you articulate. Increase by 5 beats per minute with each successful completion of the pattern. Listen for every start of the note to sound identically crisp and clear before increasing tempo. Practice until you reach 160 beats per minute per quarter note with quality standards we've just established. Once the timing of your motion is improved and you can sustain a good articulation technique for 9 consecutive quarter notes at 160 beats per minute on a regular basis, it's time to add an additional layer to texture of your exercises. Every pitch on brass instruments has a slightly different centering sensation, and it is important that you get accustomed to having a correct horizontal tongue movement, or in other words, articulation on different pitches. To accomplish that, we will use a concert B-flat or treble C chromatic scale, once again in a pattern of 9 repeated notes. Use metronome starting at 60 beats per minute per quarter note. Increase 3 to 4 beats per minute with each successful completion of the pattern. Apply same quality standards listed in the previous exercises before increasing tempo. Practice until you reach 120 beats per minute per quarter note with quality technique. Once you've reached the tempo and quality goals for the exercise 3, add even more texture to your exercises. By this time now, you should be accustomed to the correct front of a tongue motion as well as different centering sensations when changing pitch. For this to become a fully functional technique, all that remains is for you to further expand your range selection, adding some basic finger coordination, expanding the length of the pattern for more sustainability, and most importantly, adding an ability to restart notes with correct tongue placement after taking quick breaths. As we breathe, our tongue retracts and goes towards the bottom of our mouth. It means that placing your tongue correctly for an accurate start of a note after taking a quick breath must be swift and precise. There's no good way for your brain to process all that information at quick tempos, or in other words, during quick breaths, which is why it is so important to drill the first 3 exercises to the point where the placement of the front of your note becomes a muscle memory, rather than an action you need to consciously think about. about. This next exercise will help you practice putting all these qualities together, or in other words, making your tongue technique functional. We will be using major scales grouped into 4 16th notes per pitch with a quick breath in the middle of the 2-bar pattern. Use metronome starting at 60 beats per minute per quarter note. Increase 3 to 4 beats per minute with successful completion of each pattern. Take a quick breath in the middle of each 2-bar pattern. Press your valves firmly and fast all the way down as you change your finger combinations. Apply same quality standards listed in previous exercises before increasing tempo. Feel free to change octaves for more range and centering variety. Practice until you reach maximum articulation speed and quality for the day. Track your max tempo and try to increase it by a beat each time you practice. It is crucial for you to stay very disciplined and to make sure that the maximum tempo is increased without any quality loss. If you are new to this technique, you should be able to have regular tempo increments for a limited duration of time. It could be a few weeks or few months. However, as you get better, sustaining a linear progression will become impossible. Tempo increments might become as slow as single click per month or even quarterly. To give you an example, if my maximum functional tongue speed increases by a beat or two on my single, double, or triple tongue a year, I consider it a very successful year of practice. The progress is going to be more substantial for any player who's not fully developed yet. However, expect it to slow it down over time. Although this exercise looks somewhat basic in terms of texture, it is pretty much all that you need for you to develop an amazing front of the tongue for great accuracy and clarity in your playing. I also love giving this exercise to my students because it gets them to indirectly practice their scales. As you become more familiar with all the major scales, mix it up by using minor, harmonic minor, or melodic minor scales. The last 2 exercises are 2 of my favorites coming from the Arbin Method book. Both are a bit more extreme in texture, and you might not find many pieces containing something as complex as this. However, to further develop your tongue technique, it is a good idea to add textures that will have articulation mixed with sudden changes of airspeed, or in other words, larger intervals. This will allow you to practice coordination of the front of a tongue with finger movement and airspeed alongside. These 2 exercises are not ideal for learning a correct tongue technique, but they are great for practicing functional application and testing the skill level that you've developed. If you have pieces that involve a lot of articulation, you can skip these 2 exercises and focus on your pieces instead. If you enjoyed and found this video useful, please do me a big favor by clicking that like button and leaving a comment down below. It will greatly help with YouTube algorithms for this video to be reached by more people. All the materials used in this video will be available for download at Matonizz.com. I'll put the link in the description box below. Lastly, for all the prospective students, I invite you to come study with me at Seton Hill University in Greensburg, Pennsylvania if you like to improve your playing, learn how to produce brass music and videos, and make money out of your musical activities. My emails will be in the description box below if you're interested. Thank you very much for watching and have a great week, everyone.